Hi everyone and welcome to the ArtTour International Show, the TV presentation for ArtTour International Magazine. And today it's a rainy day in New York City and I'm in the really warm place here with a wonderful artist who's actually the cover for the fall issue, all dedicated to the environment, and she is such an incredible activist for the environment. I'm going to introduce you to Jodi Simmons. Jodi, thank you for being here. And we're so happy and so inspired with your works that I really wanted to come all the way here just, to share this information with everybody that's watching. I want to share your work. And let's start for sharing, how did you discover you wanted to be an artist?
It was an accident.
Okay.
I still am amazed that this is what I do. I was a nurse, and I had a near-death experience. And I had been taking care of other people for years, and at some point after the near-death experience, I just felt like, wow, maybe I need to think about what I'm really doing. And it just so happened at the same time that Mike and I moved from California to Massachusetts. And for the first time, I was able to, ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to live in New England. So I finally arrived in the place I'd wanted to be my whole life because I've always loved the forest. So we lived out in the country, and I spent months and months and months just walking in the forest, trying to understand what to do with my life. Because when you almost lose it, you come out of that experience with, at least I did, with incredible gratitude and also a sense of how fragile it all is. And I just really felt like I needed to take some time to examine what I was actually doing. And as I walked in the woods, I never was brought up in any religion, but the experience of being in the woods started to take on just a very prayerful, almost like a pilgrimage feeling that whatever it was that I needed to know, I would find there. I mean, everything was so beautiful that I was just blown away by the beauty and being in nature and the energy and the smells, and it was just so nurturing. It was feeding my soul so much. And I was talking to my next door neighbor who was in her 80s, and she was a painter her whole life. And I told her, I don't know. I don't know if I should go back and get my nursing license transferred from California to Massachusetts, or if I should, I don't know what to do. I feel like I need to make some kind of decision. And she said, why don't you paint? And so I started painting, and I didn't ever, take art in school or college or anything. I was taking science, and Mike had an old art book from his years in college. So I started copying stuff, and of course it was an art history book. So a large amount of it was religious subjects. So I started getting into that kind of examining the symbolism and what does this mean. I mean, this is stuff that, I didn't have any of religious teaching. I didn't have any art teaching. And so the next thing I knew, I felt like I want to go to a church and see what the art in the church is like. So I started attending a church every day at Mass, and that kind of dovetailed in with what I was painting. I was copying the old masters, the Virgin Mary and the Child, and I gave one to the church, and someone saw it. They put it in the rectory, and someone saw it and said, wow, have you ever seen an icon? Have you ever painted an icon? And I said, no, I don't even know what, I've never seen one. And they said, well, they just put some in at the Ukrainian church down the street, some brand new ones. You should go look. So I went down, and that was back in the days, over 25 years ago, when all the churches were just open all the time. And I walked in, and I never experienced anything like that in my life. I mean, the woods were so nurturing to me. But to what an iconostasis is in the Ukrainian church or the Greek church or what the Russian, it's just a wall of icons, and they're all done with gold and egg temper painting, and the man that painted them was a master, and he had just finished, and I never felt anything like that in my life. I just sat down on the bench and just burst into tears. I was just so overwhelmed by the beauty. And the feeling of just peace and almost otherworldliness. So I started going there. I ended up going there not to church services, but to just sit in the church for 2, 3, sometimes longer hours a day.
Wow.
And I get up very early, always have. So I would be at the church usually somewhere between 3 and 4 in the morning, and I would sit there until I heard the traffic start to pick up outside, and it disrupted my silence. And the priest who lived next door finally came in one day and asked me, "Who are you and why are you here every day?" And I told him about the icons, and he said, "Would you like to meet the man that painted them?" And that's how I got started. And there's an awful lot of similarities between the way a soul goes through its cycles of growth and understanding of itself, and the way an icon is made. It's in the symbolism of the actual craftsmanship of the meaning of the pigments, the meaning of the gold. And I studied with him mostly theory, understanding what the colors mean, what the gold means, what the different levels that go into the icon mean. Like this is, everything starts from chaos. So the first layer is always chaos. It's like the blue and over there. It's the same idea. You always lay chaos down first, because creation always comes from chaos. And then the next step is to draw lines, because in order to move out of chaos, you have to start drawing some lines. And you have to say, I can't handle that. I can stay in this square. I have to start to make order and sense out of this so I can move forward. So that all dovetails into your own, it's you have to sometimes let it go. There are people that are afraid to break down, to question what their beliefs or what they see. So that's healthy to learn that that's a phase of growth, because if you let things break down and don't leave them there, don't wallow in it, but start to determine some structure that you can work within, then you have a foundation and you can build from there. And then the steps that follow are consecutive stages of light, which are comparable to consciousness, to a new understanding of yourself or your place in the world, or whatever it is that you're working on at the time. All those stages are in an icon. So that's how I met them. I fell in love with them. They became my friend, my teacher. And then, of course, I have always had a bit of a rebellious spirit, so I started changing things a little. And I've kind of, gotten some trouble with priests and things. So in a way, they kind of set me free too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they put me in a box for a while, trying to learn the canon, right, and be very rigid and follow the rules. But then that ended up setting me free. Yeah.
Wonderful. Talk to us about some of your icons, because I have. I think they connect with the audience. They really do. I told you we've had works of yours here in the gallery, and somehow I see the attraction they have with, how people connect, regardless. They're not looking at a religious figure. There's something that really attracts them.
Well, I think, first of all, I think perhaps one of the things that attracts me to the icon is the actual elements, the material.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I work with semi-precious stones and earth pigments, lots of ochres, and everything that I use actually comes from the ground. So the part of the symbolism of the icon is it's sort of like making bread, in that you collect your materials from the earth. They're all made of rock and ground, and, you know, even ground up bugs and things, you know, vegetables to make like indigo blue. Right. That stuff is gathered from the ground, and then it's mixed, you know, and then there's yeast, which is kind of provided by the spirit of, I guess, me, you know, or maybe the one I'm painting, and then then something is created from that, and then it's offered. So I think that the pigments are alive. I mean, when I like open up, you know, the Vivianite or the cinnabar, all those things, you know, I order them from all over the world, and they come right out of the mines, and they come to me like in a sand, you know, I mean, I don't break up the rocks, but I get them from people that do, and they come in a sand, and if I, you know, dump them in my hand and put them under a light, I mean, they just spark. If you just go out and just pick up some dirt and put it under a light, you can see sparkles. Yes. So it hasn't been, you know, there hasn't been any chemicals, there isn't, it's just completely natural. And so the idea is that man takes the good things and goes through it like an alchemical process, and then offers that to, on maybe, I don't know if you call it a higher level, but, you know, a different level than just the dirt. So hopefully the materials themselves, I think, resonate with people, because they're alive. They're not something that's been, you know, gone through some huge process. Right. They're just ground up things, awesome. And then you mix them with egg yolk, and that's it. I mean, it's the oldest form of painting there is. It's what the cave, you know, paintings are like, bird eggs mixed with ochre, and they're still there. Yeah. So it's the process itself is natural, like we are. Right. And then the gold, of course, is the ultimate symbol of our place in creation, is to mix the elements of life in ourselves, and it's like a transfiguration of the elements.
Talk to us, speaking of the elements and the environment, how did you transition, because your journey is really incredible, and I've seen your works, St. Francis, and then the newer works that I see that are coming, they have so much energy in them, but at the same time there's all this symbolism that's coming out from there. How is that transition going? How's that journey happening?
There is so much that interests me about, I just feel like we're all kind of on the same journey, no matter what period in history we're on. We're just trying to get along and to understand what life hands us and to make the best we can out of it. So it's fascinating to me, particularly with women, because that has been a lot of my journey in life, is, you know, what exactly am I, you know, not just women, men, we fall into roles, we're supposed to do this, we're supposed to do that. And to look at some of these incredible women from history that have just, I mean, in the most oppressive circumstances, have done, I mean, like someone like Hildegard of Bingen, I mean, what that woman did is unfathomable in the time that she was living in. So the coming up with the symbols it begins with getting to know the entity that I'm interested in. Like when I did her, I read almost everything she's written. I mean, which is a lot, and trying to understand what is it inside of her that gave her the courage, that gave her the strength. It gave, I mean, and Teresa of Avila, so many, particularly women, have stood strong in, and men too, but so the journey is, it starts with interest in, or even something happens in my life, some sort of an event, or something seasonal, or something, how, I mean, like for example, when there's this whole thing that fits into the icon that has to do with the liturgical year, which is actually, people don't realize this, it's actually tied way back to the earth. All this stuff, it's not, none of this is separate. It's all tied in. I mean, for years people have been planting, hoping that the rain comes, getting the harvest, then the fall comes and you bring in the sheaves and you start the cycle. Oh, it's all cyclical. And if you can just keep yourself connected to those things, you find and honor them as they occur naturally, you find that there is actually a soul seasons of the soul that happen as well. So by exploring the symbolism of the feasts and the what happens in the liturgy, you can find a gateway into what's happening into yourself. Like, for example, the time of the Dormition, in the Eastern Church, it's called the Dormition. In the Western Church, it's called the Assumption. But that is in the fall. That's in August and September. We're in that time right now, and that's when Mary dies, and a part of her ascends. That's the Assumption. Mm-hmm. But then a part goes down. It's like the Yom Kippur. It's like the separate. Let me keep the good things from this year, and let me let go back to the ground. It's like the seeds that fall, because from the things that fall, then the seeds are there that are there for the next year's growth. So this, and then the feast after the Dormition, it's the birth of Mary, then the entrance of Mary into the temple. So it's like the preparation of the ground. It's not. It is talking about Mary, a person, but it's also talking just about in general. There's a time in your soul when you need to let things settle down, accept things that have happened. Just count on that I did some things good. Maybe they're gonna get stored somewhere. But now it's time for me to let things go, see, what comes out of this, wait for the coming of some understanding. Don't just rush into things. This is a good time of year to be just kind of pulling things in, storing things, letting see what comes when the sun comes back, when the snow is, because everything is still alive. It's just the seed falls into the ground, and then it brings new fruit. So all of those are all symbols that are all connect to how everything is interconnected. So it's I'm trying to use the language is, first of all, I have the symbols that I use, I have to personally find them beautiful myself, and then I try to choose something that, because there's a lot in really old traditional iconography that is very cryptic, and unless you really get into studying it, you're never going to know what it means, and I'm not really that interested in that. I'm interested in some sort of a dialogue with something much more simple and fundamental.
So what's happening here?
Well, this was the composing the canticle. Of course, when I think about the environment, I think about St. Francis and how much he loved animals. So see, that is a symbol for spring and summer. Mm-hmm. And the four winds, and the night sky, and the whole cosmos. Because when he was composing the canticle, it was actually about the cosmos, and everything is there. All the seasons are there, and the animals are all there, and he's contemplating it all. He's keeping the fire. keeping the fire, but yet he always kept a skull with him to remind himself that he wasn't, he would have to face death too, that's a normal part of the cycle, just like when the leaves fall. So to me, this is just kind of, it's that feeling it's the overall feeling of just being part of something, of being able to hear the bird, not being so wrapped up in yourself that you can't hear the birds when you're outside, that you don't, just feel joy when you see rain and flowers. And sometimes we get so involved in our own things and this is just kind of like, look, it's all so beautiful. It's also alive, and we don't have to be afraid of these things. We don't have to kill these things. We can live in peace.
That's beautiful. I could hear you forever.
I can talk forever, so you.
No, it's beautiful. I want you to talk to us about the Greta, the painting, the child.
Oh yes, that's a new one for me, because it's the first time that I've ever painted an icon of a living person, and the whole word icon. I mean, she's such an example of it.
She's amazing, yeah.
I mean, and she just happened right before our very eyes. Yes. I mean, an icon. This is what I'm kind of saying is an icon is something that what I try to put into it is. This is not just a picture of something. There's something in this that I hope reminds you of something else, whether it's spiritual or physical. There's something about this young lady that she's just stolen my heart. I've never, in my entire life, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like the focus, the honesty, the purity, the selflessness, and the fact that she's a child and that she is presenting this to the world right now and people are listening. That says a lot.
A lot, yeah.
That says a lot.
What would be your advice for other artists out there there's so much we can do as artists, and I'm happy about the reunion we're gonna have in December, to share each one this message, because we really need to bring awareness. What would be your advice to the artists out there that are wanting to bring awareness about the environment?
When I think art, it's not obviously not limited to,
of course,
visual art.
Yep.
It's hard. It's really hard, and it's hard to, because if you really care about this thing, there's, at least in me, there is some deep emotions involved. But I think that anything that you can do, anything, whether it's sing about it or drama about it or write about it or post about it, anything that you can do is counts kind of as a prayer, as an offering, as a energy, whatever you want to call it. It's I know that for me, someone like Greta, or seeing what some of these groups are doing and the demonstrations that they're doing, and how Standing Rock was a ceremony. It was mistaken for something bad when it was actually a very prayerful, mistaken by some. It was actually intended to be originated as a very prayerful ceremony. And seeing things like that, this is stuff that I've been thinking about. I mean, my husband's here. I mean, we've actually moved because of the environment. It's like, because this place is going to run out of water. We have to get out of here. I mean, I've been aware of this stuff for a long time, and there's people that can't do that. It's not that simple. But seeing other people doing what they can has made me feel less lonely. To know that there's other people that are scared too. There's other people that are feel the same way I do. It's just to know, even if it's only in spirit, that that there's so many of us that feel this way is very really good. So anything that you can offer, whatever your medium is, whatever you feel, I think would be useful now.
Thank you so much. And I'm really happy to share your message. I think that's my part of the contribution.
Yes.
Is to offer this platform, because we really, it's serious. We're entering a crisis.
Yes, we are.
You know, and we don't want to share negative message, but we do have to bring awareness. And as artists, I think it's us, we are the voice. You know, with images, with music, with dance, we are a voice that we can actually scream loud and bring awareness, and join Greta, and join, you know, artists like you who are working, you know, for Mother Earth. It's the only home we have.
It's something that by offering, you know, this kind of show that's just devoted to this thing is not something that we've seen a lot of, you know, around. Yeah. When you first told me that, you know, that you had a show like this, I was like, oh my God, that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing there is right now. That's what I think. And by putting this out there, offering artists a platform, welcoming them in, listening to their voices, it means the world to me, because I you know, what are you going to do with all this stuff that's bottled up inside? Once you make something, you know, you need somewhere to go. And I just think it's beautiful. I hope that it just grows and grows, Viviana, because it is the most important thing.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jodi. And thanks everybody for watching. And well, we are dedicating this time of the year to Mother Earth. It should not be a time of the year. It should be all year long. More and more, we're going to try to bring awareness and share messages through these incredible artists who are so passionate about creating for the environment. And I thank you so much, because you are supporting the show and you're supporting the artists. We're sharing the website for Jodi right now, and you can go visit her website, check out her work, send her a message, let her know what you think about her work. It's amazing. Thank you so much, and don't forget, stay inspired.